The Razorback basketball team has a lot more moving and shaking when it comes to the roster and the coaching staff. We're going to talk about Dylan Leach's big night for Razorback baseball from last night against UCA and probably jump into some football updates as well. This is the Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I'm your host, John Neighbors. I am also the host of Out of Bounds. You can catch every weekday afternoon from 1 to 4 on 103.7 The Buzz and 103.7thebuzz.com. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Wednesday. Made it through the midway point of the week and looking forward to seeing what the rest of the week beholds to us all, because it's been, one of those crazy, I won't call it a few days because I don't even think it would be crazy, but just a lot of moving around when it comes to Razorback basketball. And a lot of people have been wondering about what's the latest going on with the transfer portal, with players on Arkansas's current roster and players that could potentially be on Arkansas's roster and everything. And before I jump into that and start giving the updates on everything like that, I want to make something clear, because I think that there's a lot of people, and I'm not even talking about just some fans. I'm talking about people who are media members or even Twitter people, whatever that is. There's something that you have to understand about the transfer portal, and especially with the way that Arkansas and Eric Musselman handles the transfer portal. I know people who are as involved and as intertwined with the Razorback coaching staff and Eric Musselman and the program and the portal. Like, that's their job, is that. And even they struggle to know exactly what's going on 100% of the time. Now, you may say that's kind of weird, and how is that the case? Well, it's because Eric Musselman and his staff do a phenomenal job of making sure that whoever that they are going after in the transfer portal legitimately, they have to throw off the scent for other teams, because if they just start announcing, or if it starts getting out exactly who they're targeting, then everybody else is going to go after them as well. It's basically stealing their evaluation. Where on the other side of it, if Arkansas is going after 20 different players and it's all being announced that they're going after 20 different players in the transfer portal, then other teams and other programs don't really know who exactly they're really going after, who's a fake, whatever it may be. So it's a strategy. It's strategic. It's something that Eric Musselman and his staff do. And when they do that, they keep it very close to the chest, and they keep it always moving, where there's not really one spot or one place or one area that you can stop and say, okay, this is what's happening. So people have to understand that. And so yesterday, when the news was coming out of potentially having, there was some, side-eye emojis, as if everybody's like, they know something, but they're not telling everybody. All that ends up being is like, okay, I don't think you know anything. I just think that you know, because even the people that would know and would know more don't even know. Does that make sense? Probably not. But when you see all this stuff on Twitter, and of course I was having some fun with it yesterday, because I was like, hearing that eyeball emoji is going to be committing to, tough face emoji at watch emoji tonight. Like, just because it's so dumb. It's like everyone's like, oh, I know what's going on, but I'm not going to tell you what's going on, because I just know, and you're just going to have to wait. So I'm hearing things all the time, but I don't want to even come out and say like what I feel like is true or not, because I don't know. I honestly don't know. And I think that the only people that will know is when the official announcement comes out. So there's a lot of players involved, though. I've heard, as far as those twins from Rhode Island, heard that they are still involved. I heard Fardaws is still involved. Kid from Morehead State, somebody that I don't know if that's actually legitimate or not, but that's what I've heard. I mean, like I said, I've heard so many things that it's hard to keep up. So I'm saying that for everybody's sake, that if you're following on social media or anything like that, just know that because someone tweets about it or because somebody says they know something doesn't necessarily mean they do, because of how great Arkansas and Eric Musselman and his staff are at keeping everything ever so moving, but also very quiet. So I think that that's a big part of it. But either way, there has been some significant moves, though, ones we know actually for sure that happened already today. And I actually woke up to some of this news too, and it just seems like it's been going and going and going and happening. So, one of those things that crack me up is just, what people like their reactions to this stuff, as if it's like significant or if they start freaking out or anything like that. But some of it's, you got to remember, folks, is not surprising. Like, for instance, Conor Vanover. He has officially entered into the transfer portal. He's a redshirt junior. He appeared in 15 games, started 10 games this season, averaged 3.9 points per game and 2.1 rebounds per game. He's joining now Chance Moore and KK Robinson. And his announcement on Instagram came via that social media platform and said, quote, "Thank you to everyone who has helped me along my journey. My family and friends, my coaches, and my teammates. Also want to thank the fans for making my 3 years here an unforgettable experience. Growing up in Arkansas, it's always been a dream to play in a Razorback uniform, and I will never forget some amazing memories that we've had the past few years. With that being said, I will be entering my name into the transfer portal and reopen my recruitment. I will never forget my time here, and it will always hold this place near to my heart." So Conor Vanover is moving on. And, here's my thing about Conor Vanover. He was like one of the players that so many people wanted to see play. So many people wanted him to be a particular player. So many people wanted to give him opportunities. And there were also a lot of people that said that he doesn't even deserve a scholarship to be on the team. Like, there was a lot of different reactions from how people treated him or wanted him to be or whatever it may be. Here's my thing on Conor. You knew what you were getting. You knew what he was. He wasn't going to just be able to put on 50 pounds of pure muscle and get physical down under. He just wasn't that guy. He just wasn't that player. But he was somebody that, you gave the opportunities for, and he just couldn't come through. He just couldn't do it. And so now he's moving on. And so now you got those 3 scholarships are available as those guys are moving on. We only know Trevin Brazil's coming in. So it basically says that there's going to be a lot more moving and shaking in the transfer portal as well. But the other thing, too, that happened as far as the coaching staff, which I wouldn't say it's a surprise, but it was definitely something that I thought was interesting, is that Clay Mosier, he will be stepping down from his position. He announced via Twitter this morning. He's joined the staff with Eric Musselman and has been here all 3 seasons. And he says, quote, "Razorback Nation, thank you so much for the amazing, exhilarating lifetime memories over the past 3 years. 2 Elite Eights, All-Americans, All-Conference performers, Freshman of the Year, 6th Man of the Year, All-Defensive Team members, Conference Player of the Year, NBA draft picks, and more on the horizon. Lottery pick, more on the horizon. Historic wins, unprecedented recruiting success, college degrees, more on the horizon, and COVID survival. More importantly, a new robust lifetime network of incredible people, colleagues, and fellow coaches, support staff, athletic training, medical staff, nutrition staff, strength and conditioning staff, academic support staff, administration, facilities crews, broadcast crew, graduate assistants, student managers, professors, teachers, business leaders, etc. It takes a village, and everyone deserves a genuine shout out for their commitment, talent, sacrifice, and the role that they played in their accomplishment. Thanks to the community for embracing my family, as that is the most important thing to me. Thank you for my immediate family, whose sacrifice is always the hardest to repay. My mother always used to say, when you're invited into someone else's home, leave it better than what you found it. She'd be proud. Woo pig suey. So there you have it. Clay Mosier is moving on. And again, coaching staff changes happen pretty much every year under Musselman, where guys move on. And people want to say if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but they've already moved in Anthony Ruda into the assistant coach's role right there with Clay Mosier. And Musselman even said, quote, "We are excited to have and fortunate to have Anthony make his progression on our staff. His tireless work ethic and overall basketball knowledge led us to hire him as both director of operations and assistant coach at Nevada, and now here again at Arkansas. Anthony has proven himself in every facet of scheduling, recruiting, player development, and on-court instruction." So you got some movement there on the staff, and Anthony Ruda being that. Here's my thing about this, and I am not taking away anything that assistant coaches do for Arkansas whatsoever. No, I'm not. I am not taking it away. They are pivotal, they are important, and they are integral into the success of the Razorback basketball program. Totally there. So that being said, though, I feel like Musselman is a lot more like a Petrino type, where everything goes through him. Like, he is what holds it all together. He is the coach. He is the guy. Everything goes through him. And because of that fact, he might be sometimes difficult for assistant coaches to be under for a long period of time. I think that there might be, and again, it's not like that he's like that Musselman's a jerk or anything. I just think that it's very demanding. It's a very demanding job. And I think over time, that's why you see some coaches leave, because they're like, hey, this either this is a lot. This is a lot going on. It's very demanding. I need to move on. Or they may approach it and say, this is actually just fine. I'll stick around and make it work, and then wait for another opportunity too, and whatever it may be. So, there's just a few things that I think that go into that. But at the end of the day, it's like, as long as Eric Musselman's still your coach, as long as he's still going out there and doing Eric Musselman things and recruiting at the high level that he's doing and all those things, you're going to be just fine. Like, Arkansas basketball is always going to be good. So you can just count on that. And I just think that that's something that, people don't need to worry about too much. Let's go into some Razorback baseball. So I want to talk about the night last night for Dylan Leach here in just a second. But, hey, you've heard me tell you many, many times about Built Bar. And, it's that protein bar that makes everything so much better, especially in your mornings. I've already had one this morning. And as you can see, I am so pumped up with energy because of Built Bar helping me out with it. It's a delicious, amazing protein bar that tastes great, which is very important to have, mind you. And on top of all that, it's got so many different flavors to choose from that even if you don't like coconut, don't worry, they got other ones. They got strawberry shortcake. They got different ones to choose from to make it easy for you. And right now we have a great deal where if you go to built.com and enter promo code LOCKED15, you'll get 15% off your next order. Go to built.com, use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off your next order at built.com. Check it out. I promise you, you won't be disappointed.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, I know that we haven't talked a whole lot of baseball on the podcast just yet, but I want to kind of dive into that as well and kind of give up the big news coming from there too. And last night, just for a little bit, as Arkansas played UCA, an in-state opponent in Baum-Walker Stadium. And, Arkansas won 21-9. Like, it wasn't close. Like, Arkansas was just a better baseball team. But the story comes from Dylan Leach, who is just a sophomore catcher, hasn't hit that well all year long, but he hit the cycle. He hit for the cycle, but it wasn't just the cycle. It was even more than that. So he got a triple in the second inning. He got a single in the third and a double in the fourth. So through fourth innings, he's already on pace for it. And then he hits a 2-run home run in the top of the sixth to complete the cycle, making him just the second hog to do it since 1994, which is funny because last year against UCA, Robert Moore did the same thing. Something about scheduling. I don't know there. But what's crazy is not only has he served the backup catcher and he hasn't had those opportunities to do it, but he hit another home run. He hit a home run right-handed and a home run left-handed. So as far as cycles go, I know that not every cycle, as long as you get the cycle, you get the cycle. But when it comes to the cycle in that regard and in that form, to me, that's like one of the most impressive things is not only were you able to hit a home run, but to do it with both stances on both hands, batting left-handed and right-handed. So like that's just the game of your life right there. Even Dave Van Horn said so. Just the game of his life. Now, is that going to lead to anything? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it gives him confidence. Maybe he starts playing a little bit more. But we know with Turner playing catcher that it's probably, it's not like he's going to overtake that job or that position or anything like that. Maybe they look at him at DH. I don't know. I don't know exactly what they'll dive into and what they'll think for him. But either way, it was just an awesome performance. And to see him do it against UCA, the second player to do it against UCA in the past 2 years with Robert Moore doing it last year, it's awesome. And again, I'm not a baseball guy. Like, I don't sit here and talk about baseball all the time. But I will say that, like, hitting for cycles or doing, like, records like this is always really cool to me. Like, I always think that, like, if you're able to go out and do something that takes timing and, like, because, honestly, the most difficult part about it all is, you're talking about basically getting in those positions where the triple is going to be the hardest thing. Like, that's just the facts. Like, that's just a fact of the matter. And so that's, to me, kind of the most impressive thing is when you can hit home runs, like doubles can happen, but the triple, That's the toughest part. And Arkansas was able to do that with Dylan Leach and make some big plays there as well. So I thought that was cool. I thought that was awesome for him and his confidence. And I think it's awesome that Arkansas continues to roll on and has a big series this weekend against Florida on the road. So we'll have to see if they can put it together for that. But still, just a great performance by Dylan Leach, having the game of his life. This episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it is impossible for your local chain parts store to stock all the parts you'll ever need. So why endure office pointless and seemingly intimidating questions when you can go and save time and money with rockauto.com? It's a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years, and their prices are reliably low for every customer. They have everything you can need: brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, and even new carpet. So go and explore their website today to find a new solution for your auto parts needs, and go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car, truck. Right, locked on in the How Did You Hear About Us box so that they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the car parts you will ever need at rockauto.com.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so we just got a few minutes left, but I wanted to dive into just a few updates on Razorback football. And I'm sure we'll have more of a dedicated podcast to this tomorrow, barring any major news or anything coming out about Razorback basketball. But Arkansas had a scrimmage yesterday, or for Saturday's scrimmage, and we know that the media got to meet with Sam Pittman and all those things yesterday in a press conference. And as far as any updates from that, he says Sam Pittman said that starting left tackle Dalton Wagner's back was bothering him a little bit on Tuesday, so they decided to shelf him. Christopher Paul Jr. is in concussion protocol, and so they're looking at that as well. Trey Knox, we know that he got in a car accident, and he was in concussion protocol, which is just a scary thing. And I'm glad he's okay, but they're definitely trying to make him feel, make sure he's ready to come back whenever he's ready. Let's see. Jayden Hazelwood and safety Jalen Catalon remain in green no-contact jersey, so they're still out there. Freshman defensive end Landon Jackson, the LSU can transfer. Junior running back Dominic Johnson, Cade Renfro, Zach Zemos, and Manny Powell remained out because they're all dealing with injuries that they're trying to jump back from as well. By the way, this is all according to hogsports.com. I want to give them credit because I wasn't able to be there for the practice and everything, but want to give them a shout out too, because that's how I keep up to date with all my stuff is at hogsports.com. So they do a great job of it. So yeah, we have, as far as that goes, there's no real major changes like rosters or anything like that. It's kind of just all like there, but the other thing too, is that happened literally just a little bit ago, is that Mateo Soli put his name into the transfer portal. This happened like literally as I was recording this podcast. He appeared in 17 games throughout his Razorback career, recorded 30 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, half a sack. In 2021, he appeared in 3 games and recorded 6 tackles. He's 6'4", 245. He's a 4-star recruit. And he had offers that went to Alabama, Auburn, Florida, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Clemson, Florida State, Notre Dame, Oregon, Stanford, Wisconsin. I mean, that's big. That's big. He had a lot of that going on. But here's my thing is like the timing of everything's interesting. And especially with like, okay, here's my thing. Okay, so Arkansas, we know on the defensive line, does not have a lot. They don't have a lot of depth. They don't have a lot of players that came in as far as the incoming recruiting class. They had to make a change in the coaching staff when it came to the defensive line coaching and all that. So it was kind of like, what's really going on there? And I guess the question becomes, for me, if you're Mateo Soli and you are in a position group that doesn't have a lot of depth, doesn't have a lot of high-end talent, at least at this point in time, and you're transferring, which normally when you transfer means you're not getting playing time, does that mean that Arkansas has some really good dudes, or does that mean that Soli hasn't just been able to figure it out, hasn't been able to get to that point? I think it's probably more the latter. And Soli was a 4-star player, and sometimes those players, when they get to campus, they don't pan out the way that you hope, or pan out the way that people think that they will. And so it kind of gives me that vibe with Soli that maybe that's what happened in this case. And maybe that's what happened here, is that he's a fine player and all of that, and a guy that's been around for a bit, but he's just been unable to get to that SEC level and that SEC caliber. Because again, if you're in a position group on the defensive line that doesn't have a lot of talent there, and you still can't see the field, I think that's kind of telling of where he's at. So I'll be curious to see where he ends up. There's a lot of opportunities, I'm sure, to enroll early, maybe in the summertime too. And who knows, maybe this was something that Sam Pittman and the staff said, might be just best for you to move on. Maybe it's one of those things too. I don't know. But again, we just found out about it as we're recording this podcast. So, but we'll talk more football tomorrow on the podcast, because there is some things I want to dive into. And there are some things that I just think that are very interesting when it comes to spring football, especially this weekend, the Saturday, actually. There's going to be a scrimmage, and there's going to be a press conference and all those things that I'm sure we're going to hear more and more about, and maybe be able to get to see, because I'm going to be up there in Fayetteville, actually. So I'll actually be able to get some legitimate things that I get to check out and see how it all goes down too. So either way, I'm excited about that. I'm excited about that fact and how they're able to, still have spring football, still have news coming out from it. Still great for content, great for the podcast, great for radio shows, great for all that stuff too. So I'm just happy that we're going to be able to do it. But we'll dive more into football tomorrow. Appreciate everybody listening into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at BuzzJohnNeighbors for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have, and we'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you then.